Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear, that's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles, and with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge we all need for building a great life.
After all, you only get one that we know of,
That's
so
true.
you better make the most of it.
Let's get on with it.
Let's do the show. Well, Uncle Dan,
Yes, sir.
on this week's show, get comfortable because we're going to have the talk.
We are. It's birds and bees, baby.
Yep, the first of many talks about the birds and the bees and all the other flying things.
But this is not like your mama's talk. Mm-mm. We're getting down and dirty with Dr. D.
Dr. D.
What else we got?
We slip all over the slippery slope with Professor Jim,
Yeah.
and despite our best efforts, we all end up in hell.
We're going to hell.
Let's do it.
Moving on.
All right. Well, we want to welcome back a returning guest on this segment, Thinking Better with Professor Jim. We have
Professor Jim's here.
Professor Jim in the studio.
We always love it to have you here. Thanks for dropping back in.
Good to be back, guys.
All right. Diving in, we're going to learn to think better. What do you got for us this time?
Okay, so the idea here, or the statement here that sort of kicks this one off, it was originally in a dissenting opinion by former Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia.
Aha.
And when he...
Dan has nothing to say about Tony Scalia. Yeah, he has no opinion.
You've heard of him.
We might have said a thing or two on the other podcast.
We might have been a little racist about it, but we're better now. We're better now.
I believe your term was a balloon full of marinara.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's what I said, yeah.
Go on. Let's
Finally popped.
let's skim past that and go straight to what he said.
So when back in 2003, when the Supreme Court knocked down anti-sodomy laws, Scalia dissented and famously said, if you can't ban homosexuality for moral reasons, what's to stop states from banning bestiality or pedophilia or murder?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Am I smelling a slippery slope?
Bing, 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 bing. That's exactly what you're smelling.
Okay.
And he doubled down on that over a decade later. I think it was as late as 2012 or 2013. He was sort of doing the speaker circuit because he was advertising a book, and somebody called him out on this. And he said, yeah, that's exactly what I meant. So Dan put his finger on it. This is a slippery slope argument.
Okay.
And so the way slippery slope arguments work is you disagree with something that is sort of disputed. You say, well, look, if you think that's okay, then you have to think these really, really awful things are okay. And since we can all agree these really awful things are not okay, you should actually agree with me that this thing under dispute is also not okay.
Okay.
Right? So the idea is, everybody here agrees murder, not okay. Pedophilia, not okay. Bestiality, not okay. Well, you can't say those things are off limits if you want to keep homosexuality safe.
Right. Now, here's the slippery slope thing is interesting because out in the world, people use that phrase as an okay thing.
Yeah.
They actually say, oh, that's a slippery slope down to this.
Yeah.
And I've always said personally that all the slippery slopes in the whole world eventually lead to fucking an animal. This is every slippery
They
slope
all end there.
has an animal's vagina at the end of it.
And a Nazi.
And a Nazi. There's a Nazi fucking an animal at the end of every slippery slope.
It's fucking a Nazi animal.
Right. Yes.
It's way more complex than you even imagined. It's so slippery.
Right.
And we all know that Hillary killed him with a pillow when he slept in that hunting lodge in Texas. But wow, would it have been ironic if he fell down a really slip hill and got killed? That would have been like, damn.
Him being Scalia. It took me a second to remember that we were talking about.
But I think Daniel raised a good point, which is not all slippery slopes are created equal. the very fact, the way of arguing, of saying this leads to that and this leads to that, and if you agree with me that this is a bad conclusion, then you should have trouble with this earlier point. That's not necessarily a problem. Where where the problem arises is if you don't see a legitimate way in which the slippery slope can be blocked. So in this case, let's go back to Scalia's claim.
Yes.
Right. The obvious difference between the case that was under dispute, right, homosexuality and anti-sodomy laws, and something like pedophilia or bestiality or murder is consent, right? The reason we think that bestiality, pedophilia, murder are wrong is because somebody is doing something to something else, and they've not permitted that.
Right.
A homosexual relationship between two consenting adults is completely different.
Correct.
Right? And so, what makes that an illegitimate slippery slope is the fact that there is a very clear barrier from slipping down it, and that barrier is at consent.
And what's interesting to me about Scalia making that argument is that, as you say, basically the slippery slope works backwards. You start at the worst thing, and then you'd sort of draw lines backwards. Well, the much easier line to draw in his argument is go back one more step and say heterosexual sex is not okay. Because there's no block between heterosexual sex and homosexual sex.
And heterosexual sex is fucking gross, dude. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's frightening.
I have seen it once or twice.
I've heard about it.
I've heard.
Well,
It sounds fun. I don't know.
I think the consent point is really an excellent one, because as I've watched, over the years, the kind of conservative Christian white male patriarchy in this country.
Wait, you're claiming that that's real?
Yeah, bear with, just hear me out.
Okay.
Is the problem at the end of so many of the arguments they have is consent. They don't, in a way, they just don't believe in it.
Yeah.
They don't believe that a lesser person, as they see the world's ladder comprised, that a lesser person or thing has any way to say no to them. So, an animal literally can't consent. So fuck that. Why does a woman get to say no to me if I'm, in that patriarchy? And
but they don't articulate. This is what's sneaky about all of this is that these are not thoughts that are articulated. These are sort of under the surface things that are happening inside of them, and they're trying to come up with ways of making it legitimate.
Right.
Yeah, there's a yuck response, and then it's like, I got to come up with something to
Right. So they
justify this
reverse
yuck.
engineer some societal,
Right.
barely non-religious
And I think what
construct.
Scalia was saying is homosexuality makes me feel yucky. Bestiality makes me feel yucky. Pedophilia makes me feel yucky. The yuck is what's going to pull you down the slope.
Right. Yes.
Not considering that, like, dude, what makes you feel yucky isn't the arbitrator of right and wrong.
Right. And also, we all have to look at you, Scalia, and if we imagine you having sex...
Stop it.
Let me tell you something.
Shut it down.
We're all going to be...
So is there a proper use of the slippery slope?
Yeah.
So, for instance, I would say letting people carry concealed or non-concealed weapons without a license is a slippery slope that then leads to, okay, now they carry them on college campuses. Okay, then it's fine to let them into bars. To me, maybe I'm just a big old lefty that thinks fewer guns might be saner.
Yeah.
But to me, I see that as A to B to C.
Yeah.
I guess that's a slippery
Well,
slope.
there's two ways you can sort of respond to a slippery slope argument when it's presented to you. One is to try to block it, right? And so you can sort of say, no, dude, homosexuality is completely different from pedophilia. You forgot about consent.
Right.
Another another way to respond to it is to bite the bullet. So in response to the example that you were just giving there, I suspect a lot of gun rights advocates would say, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Right.
Sure. Right?
I'll
And then they
ride the
just-
entire. I'll
yeah,
ride
that's
the
right.
whole slope down.
That's right.
And I'm okay with the
And
whole
I'm
thing.
happy there, yeah.
So yeah, I think that. I guess the idea is we're not rejecting slippery slopes
No,
as a concept. It's
That's
not.
right.
It's not inherently fallacious thinking.
that's right.
But they require full consideration of the whole thing, and they require you to delve into what's behind the actual whether A does lead to B leads to C, and if that's what's the salient line that's being drawn between them.
Yeah. No, I would say two lessons. If you are proposing a slippery slope, then that's exactly, you sort of have to ask yourself, okay, is there a way to block this, right? Or alternatively, is it possible that somebody could find themselves at the bottom of the slope and live with it? In example,
like a gun right
to the
side
gun
to it.
right side, right? Alternatively, if you are presented with one, then the challenge is on you to either block it or say, I'm okay being there.
So there's a little cross-pollination here with something that I guess is kind of the argument from absurdity, right? That's just like, well, if you let this person do this, and then this happens, and then they're fucking an animal at the bottom of a hill, it's like, that's absurd.
Yeah. So the term there is reductio ad absurdum.
Right.
And that is considered a legitimate argumentative move where you are showing that somebody's position reduces to the absurd. And in fact, when Scalia was doing his book tour and the person called him out and says, "You don't believe this, do you?" He said, "I assume you're familiar with it. It's a reductio ad absurdum." And so he was sort of saying, "Look, I'm showing that this position reduces to the absurd," right? But
So he's using that in support of his argument.
Yes, he's saying,
meaning if we follow homosexual sex to its logicalist conclusion, eventually everyone will be having sex with pickles.
But in that moment, admitting that it is absurd, and of course that's not going to happen.
That's right.
There's no way society is going to legalize pedophilia.
Right.
And by the way, none of us are from the South, but this is true. In some states, bestiality is not against the law.
Yeah.
So do with that what you will.
Have fun with that one. Just chew
I'll see you guys.
that cud for a little while. See where it ends
I'm
up.
going to Bammy. All right.
Oh, thanks, Jim. Moving on.
Moving on.
All right, kids, we got another new segment. We like to introduce new segments every now and then. Hopefully this one will come back. Hey, Mark.
Yeah, buddy.
Go to hell.
We're gonna go to hell. So this is, I find religious concepts of heaven and hell incredibly fascinating.
Indeed.
I think that it is just such. At the end of the day, they are probably some of the most absurd parts of any religious belief.
Yeah.
Of any faith is, there's all the great do good works. Be kind, the golden rule, there's all that stuff.
That all feels nice.
But then there's just these bananas punishments and or rewards at the end of life that really tax my ability to believe this
Well,
stuff.
and what's interesting, you and I were talking about this earlier, concepts of heaven are always very nebulous. They're
Pretty vague.
They're always like, you're just going to have to trust us. You're going to like it.
Yeah.
Like, don't think too hard about it. Just,
Believe me.
you're gonna love it. It's the best thing you've ever. You can't even imagine how good it is.
Yeah.
Really? Can you give me any specifics? You don't want the specifics.
Yeah. I want to surprise you.
Yeah, you're gonna just trust me. You're gonna love it. However, it's a lot easier to go. I'm gonna imagine a hell for you.
Yep.
And this is gonna suck.
Yeah, it's
We're gonna
way
get
more
specific on this.
It's way more fun to write for the villain than it is to write for the hero.
Indeed, it is.
So hell's there's more than one.
Well, and here's the thing. You kids out there, you guys think we're about to talk about, Christian hell,
Hades,
maybe one of these things. Oh no. Uncle Mark's coming at you with the strong shit. What do you got,
Yeah,
Mark?
baby. We got for our first segment, I picked a particularly wonderful hell. And this is the hell of the Buddhists.
Which, hello, Buddhists have a hell?
Oh, they have more than 500 hells, Uncle Dan.
Oh, well, now that just seems excessive.
Yeah, so, I think in the atheist conversation out there, our Buddhist friends tend to kind of get a pass.
Oh, they fly so under that radar.
Yeah. So,
Because, when you think of Buddhism, traditionally what you think of is just like nice people chanting and trying to be better people.
And who are they hurting?
Yeah, they're just out there. I mean, the Rohingya,
Yeah.
are who they're hurting.
Yeah, I mean,
among others, they're doing some real damage in the world. But
And one time we'll meet the Buddhist. We'll do a full sit down and meet the Buddhist, and we'll talk about the catalog of Buddhist violence
right.
over the years.
Yeah, we imagine that they say a lot of things about nonviolence, and then that's what they say.
I guess it's good to aspire,
Yeah, sure.
but
Right.
like everybody else,
Yeah.
they've sometimes failed to live up to their.
Yeah, Jesus said a lot of things about peace too, but yeah, that doesn't stop the Christians from
Yeah, and then they make Revelations the last book in the Bible. So,
right.
so today we're going to talk about Naraka. And Naraka is also the name of, and we'll do this another time, a very similar Hindu hell.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So Naraka
They're
is
sharing.
it's kind of a confusing concept because it says that Naraka differs from the hell in Christianity in two main ways. Firstly, beings are not sent to Naraka as the result of a divine judgment or punishment,
Oh,
which you'll see why that's confusing in a minute. And secondly, the length of a being's stay in Naraka is not eternal.
okay. Well, that's nice.
So, but
Thank goodness for that.
it is usually extremely long, measured in millions or even billions of years.
Oh, well, that feels like eternal.
It would,
feel like-
especially under the circumstances.
I feel like I got tricked. You
Yeah.
said not eternal, and then you said billions of years.
And then it's just to kind of burn off the bad. It's more like purgatory.
Sure.
It's a transitional stop between lives.
It's a 1 billion year crucible to get rid of the impurities.
Many billions of years. So
Good Lord.
so someone who dies now
Sure.
in 2017, they're not going to get their next pretty miserable corporal life for billions of years potentially.
Right, because they got to burn some shit out.
Because they stole
Yeah.
something, it's the neighbor's flowers, and now they've got to spend billions
Yeah.
of years.
They left poop in a bag on someone's doorstep and lit it on fire, and now it's time for Naraka.
And they might spend billions of years in Arbuda,
Ooh, our Buddha.
the blister.
Oh dear, that sounded good until you told me.
Arbuda the blister is a dark frozen plain surrounded by icy mountains and continually swept by blizzards. Inhabitants of this world arise fully grown and abide lifelong naked and alone, where the cold raises blisters upon their bodies. The length of life in this Naraka is said to be the time it would take to empty a barrel of sesame seeds if one only took out a single seed every 100 years. I would want to see the barrel.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of questions there. I feel,
Yeah.
but that
There are sesame seeds.
Let me tell you something.
So that's good.
yeah. For one thing, look, a cold blister. If your skin is blistering due to cold, it feels like either that's going to heal, or it's just going. I mean, I guess you can't die in the Naraka.
no.
So how does it keep? I mean,
They
once your
revi-
whole body is just blistered, then what are you
Then
going
you're
to do?
restored to health and it starts over again.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and so that's just the first of the 8 cold Narakas.
Oh, okay.
And then there's Narakas
It's like an amuse bouche.
this one is
Before
called
we get to the hot Narakas.
Atata.
Okay.
Atata is the shivering Naraka.
Oh dear.
Their beings shiver in the cold, making an atat at sound with their mouths.
Is it like chattering of teeth?
I think that's a chattering sound. And then there's the Mahapadma, which is the great lotus Naraka. The entire body cracks into pieces, and the internal organs are exposed to the cold, also cracking.
It feels. Yeah, these aren't happy places.
And again, this is like remember the Christian hell is you have denied the divinity of Christ.
Right.
You are you've murdered.
Yeah,
You were mean to the Pope, and so forever you're burning in hellfire. This is just to you cheated on your taxes
right.
one time. You took a buck out of the till. A billion years,
Really?
with your body cracking in pieces in the
Yikes.
cold.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's kind
Is
of
there-
shittier than Christian hell in its weird way, right?
Is there like a repentance process that can get me out of Naraka? Like if I do it fast enough?
It seems not. It seems that these various Narakas, and sometimes a journey through all of them,
Oh, good. Oh, wow. Yeah.
are just purgatory on the way to your next, being born into some shitty life in the country.
Now, here's what I'm going to say. People who are subjected to horrific tortures, it seems like eventually, if they're doing it for 3 days, that's just going to be miserable.
Yeah.
But it feels like if it's like hundreds of thousands or millions or billions of years,
Yeah.
at some point you're going to be like, I can handle blisters now. I have now.
Yeah.
My brain has now acclimatized to a world in which I am just constantly cold blistered.
It is the normal of every day and every minute.
What else you got?
And then you go to the next Naraka.
Yeah.
Then there's the hot Narakas. We don't have to spend a lot of time in the hot Narakas.
I think I went to a club in Spain called the Hot Narakas.
Hot Naraka. Were you there for a billion years?
Well, it can feel like that.
So, there's the Sanjiva, where you are stuck on a burning iron floor your entire existence there.
Oh, yeah.
There's Rorava, nailed it. The Screaming Naraka is where beings run wildly about, looking for refuge from the burning ground. When they find an apparent shelter, they are locked inside it, and it blazes around them, where they scream, thus the Screaming Naraka. And the length of time in this Naraka, these numbers are so bizarre. The length of time you spend there is 8.2944 times 10 to the 14th power years.
Oh, so they actually counted the sesame seeds for this one.
That's like, how long is that? It's fucking hell. It's 14 zeros behind a 10. How many?
Here's the thing with numbers that big. They don't mean anything.
It's bananas.
You can have 14 zeros. You can have a million zeros. At some point, it just becomes nonsense numbers.
It's like life in prison plus a day. You're like, okay, whatever.
Right, exactly.
Then there's the one that is particularly being speared with a burning trident.
Oh, yeah.
Forever.
Sure.
The uninterrupted Naraka, where you're roasted in an immense blazing oven.
Again, I gotta say, like, if you're gonna live through all of these things, if you're gonna continue on, this doesn't kill you. You start to get the point. Like, keep stabbing me with that trident. At some point, I'm like, okay.
It's like the old timey Arab punishment of a thief. You chop off his hand. He's totally got it from then on. You don't need to chop his hand off 12 trillion times.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Just chop off his hand. He's like, I got this.
Or like you just acclimatize to it, and then you're walking into a bar and you're like, hey, Jim, hey, Sam. And they're like, oh, he's still poking you with the trident, huh? Yeah, I guess that's got to be for billions. Can I just get can I get a root beer?
Yeah.
Because, yep. Oh, you got me again. Oh, sorry. Did the blood squirt on you this time? I'm sorry. It's just I can't stop him from stabbing me with this trident. So it's just the thing I do.
You have to also wonder, doesn't this make you like a really pissed off and mad and sad person when you come back into the next life?
Yeah, it feels like that's not. It's not a recipe for a healthy mindset.
Punishment doesn't fit the crime.
No.
And then we'll close it out. But then there's like there's all these other kinds of hells in addition to these hot and cold Narakas. There's ones that have no boundaries where you're not stuck there. You just wander the world suffering these torments for billions of years. So, we could go on. There's many more, but I think you get the point.
And that point is this is nonsense.
And it just seems like hell.
Well, it's like, at what point does this belief serve us?
I don't understand. I understand.
How could it be helpful? How could it possibly be useful to believe this?
I understand, like, society needs reward and punishment to keep order.
So they say.
But what is the proportionality of this?
Right, yeah.
To what potential human crime?
I mean, if you say to me, I'll go back to the thing about, if you steal, we're going to cut your hand off. And I see some guy walking around without a hand, and he was like, oh, I stole. I'm going to think twice about stealing. That seems like that'll work.
Yeah, it's also not proportional to the crime.
Right, but at least I'm going, geez, I don't want that.
Right, it has an effect on society.
But if you tell me something that is so over the top, impossibly horrific, that there's nothing I can do. Like, it's just, I can't even conceive of a billion years of being stabbed with a trident or like burning.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's not much of a deterrent because it's so outlandish I can't even possibly conceive it.
It's an unimaginable absurdity.
Yeah.
And it seems like, for what positives there are in Buddhism,
Yeah.
and I'm sure people can point them out, and we'll examine them when we do a deep dive into into Buddhism. This is insane. And if you believe this is true, if you are telling other people this is the truth about the world,
Right.
nothing good you're doing fucking outweighs this. This is a horror. If you wish this shit on anybody,
Right.
I wouldn't wish this shit on Hitler.
Well, and
Like, what's wrong with you?
well, and most Christian conceptions of hell are basically the same.
Yes,
It's only
physical torment.
They use the word eternity instead of billions of years, and then you come back or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no difference between those things. It's just the conception of hell. Anyone who doesn't find the conception of hell repugnant, we'll do more hells later. It's not helping anything.
No, it's literally evil. So knock that shit off.
It's so stupid.
It's stupid.
Oh my God.
All right.
Moving
Well,
on.
we went to hell. Bye.
Hey, Uncle Mark.
Uncle Dan,
We have some people to thank.
once again, we have attracted some honey to our honeypot somehow.
Indeed. So this week's most beautiful listeners,
Yes.
happiest people on the earth, for us anyway, are Claude, Taylor, Renee, Evan, Elvin, not to be confused with Evan, Zach, Matthew, and Corey.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
because
so much.
as the song says, people who pay people
Are
the luckiest people. We'll never do that again. We'll never harmonize again.
But only if you guys all contribute.
Yes.
That is. Otherwise, we're going to torture you with
That's the only way to stop us from singing.
from singing Barbra Streisand songs.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it all the way. It's
And remember, for $10, you get a custom heaven all your own.
for a $10 per episode pledge. Yeah, and if you want to be part of this, and if you want to make a per episode pledge at any level, it doesn't matter. We're grateful for everything. You can go to thehowtoheretic.com and click on the Patreon button, and that'll take you right there. Easy breezy. You sign up, and you get to be a part of this this growing movement.
Yes.
Okay,
Let's take it back. Moving on.
moving on.
Uncle Dan,
Yes, sir.
I am extremely excited about tonight's how-to segment, which I think will be the first of many on the topic.
Hopefully, yeah.
We have with us an old friend of mine, Dr. D, who is going to tell us a whole string of good information we need to know.
Sexy time.
Sexy time
It's
with
sexy time with Dr. D.
with Dr. D.
Dr. D, how are you, man? Man, I almost called you man.
How are you, dude?
Friend, how are you, doctor?
Fantastic and super excited to hang out with you guys.
Yay. Well,
Yay.
we can't wait to get the lowdown on the sex because Dan and I haven't really gone there yet in life or with each other.
I feel like at some point we'll try sex. I feel like we're ready.
that's for 200
should.
patrons. 200
It's
Patreon goal.
fantastic.
That's right. At 200 patrons, we try sex.
Together. well, my dear friend Dr. D, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll dive into the how-to you have crafted for us tonight.
All right, excellent. Well, so I am an OBGYN by training, and I actually have a subspecialty in family planning, which means I have special training in contraception, abortion care, and general sexual health. So I have a real interest in healthy sexuality because I think it's a really important part of our overall health, and I think it should be everybody's goal to have a fantastic, fulfilling, healthy sex life because I think it's really important for our overall well-being. So I am really excited to be hanging out with you guys and talking about this.
Well, that sounds crazy, but we'll go with you for a while here.
Yeah, are we even allowed to say any of this stuff on the air? Is
Yeah.
that
And by the way, we can say anything, so don't be afraid.
Excellent.
But yeah, I think your background is just kind of interesting for our listeners to kind of get a little bit of the totality of the person as well as your education and training.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I was raised Muslim, so I am the child of immigrants. Have spent most of my life as a semi-practicing Muslim, but have sort of drifted away from organized religion, and I really think that it has given me a unique perspective on how growing up within a religious faith can impact your sexual development. I think coming out of that and then becoming sort of an expert in sexual health has allowed me to have a different perspective on it. And I think also now, I live and practice in a red state. And so a lot of my patients that I work with every day have either come out of maybe a little bit more conservative backgrounds, or they're growing up in an education system that doesn't value healthy sexuality and is really more focused on abstinence education. And so I see the outcomes of that exposure every day in my clinic.
Now, I want to push back on something a little bit, Dr. D, which is that abstinence, as we all know, is the healthiest of all of the sexes. It's the healthiest of every sex position, isn't it?
Abstinence comes with a 30% failure rate, which you don't hear about.
That's true. That is the one big failing of abstinence, is that people don't abstain.
That's right.
Exactly.
The only matter of fact, that's the only thing that's wrong with it. It works 100% of the time, except that it never really works.
And but I do like that. I think that your background as coming out of kind of conservative religion and an immigrant family, coupled with now I've heard everything, being a lady doctor,
right?
Certainly gives you probably a unique perspective when you're dealing with people coming out of conservative religion who maybe got bad information and made bad sexual decisions as a result of that.
Right, exactly. Because the thing with, abstinence-only education is, even if you have an intent to be abstinent, intention does not equal practice. So you may grow up and say, I'm going to save myself till marriage. But, life has different plans for us in a lot of ways.
Life happens.
Life happens, right? And so if you are not given the tools and the knowledge to manage these things that come up in your life, then you're being set up for failure. So, if you don't understand how basic reproduction works, how does pregnancy occur? What are pregnancy risks? Then you have a really high chance of having an unintended pregnancy if you do have sex. If you don't understand the risks of having a sexually transmitted infection or how to prevent sexually transmitted infections, then you are putting yourself at risk for developing or contracting a sexually transmitted infection when you do become sexually active. Because the thing is, most people are going to become sexually active at some point in their lives, the vast majority.
Right.
And whether you wait until marriage or you're having premarital sex, the least we owe people is to give them the skills and the knowledge to be healthy about it, because sex is pleasure and sex is wonderful. So we shouldn't be holding that back.
Right.
So
I think that's part of what our message is that we want, our show is largely for people who have left religion, and as it's great to have your perspective because you left a restrictive religion, but it wasn't Christian, which so many of the larger the majority of our listeners probably have left some variant of Christianity. But can you talk a little bit about the sexual mores of your Muslim background?
Right. Yeah. So Islam is a one of the Abrahamic faiths, which all tend to be very patriarchally focused, right? So, Judaism, Christianity, Islam are all very much patriarchal religions. And so they're
the people of the book.
Yes, the people of the book.
Yeah.
And so in these religions, women in particular are it comes to the story of Adam and Eve. Eve is the temptress who caused, humankind, the original sin. And that is carried across all three religions. And so in Islam, you have that same idea of the woman as the temptress and sort of source of sin. And so there's particular attention that is given to young women to be aware of their sexuality, but to have a sense of almost of shame about it, that you must, cover yourself, be modest, be protective so as not to tempt others into sinful activity.
Right, because men bear no responsibility for their sexual urges or behaviors, right?
Exactly. Men are weak. And that's one thing that was interesting, is that sort of some of the way it was presented to me, it wasn't that, it wasn't that men were better than women. It was men are weak, and so they need to be protected from women. So it was this like quasi like faux feminist approach.
Right.
Kind of empowering,
right,
but still shitty.
But still shitty. Because
congratulations, you're in the stronger sex. Also, that means that everything is your fault.
Right. Exactly. So, and so I think there is, out of those lessons, it creates this idea that pleasure is bad.
Right. Because it is what draws you to sin.
Right, exactly. And so it's really important to save yourself for marriage so that, you're not spoiled. There's this idea of, you become dirty if you have sex before marriage. And I think there's obviously parallels in this Christian faith, in the Mormon faith, there's the stories of the chewed piece of gum that gets passed around the classroom, right?
That's right. That's right. That was part of what was in Elizabeth Smart's mind after her abduction and rape. And that is just insidious, evil bullshit.
Yeah.
It's so damaging to a person's psyche to have that idea that by giving into something, which is what it is, it's this power is taken away from you as an individual. You're giving in to sin, to temptation, and then you're made to feel bad over those feelings. It can snowball into having a very distorted view of sex and sexuality. And when you approach something, which is such a fundamental part of being a human being, right? Like having sex, reproduction, pleasure, whatever you are getting out of sex is to come at it with a sense of shame, particularly when you feel pleasure in it, can be a very damaging thing to a person.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue into kind of our how-to today, right? Which is kind of beginning to have how to have a positive view, not only of sex generally, but starting with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I'll say this, both Mark and I grew up LDS Mormon, and I came out of it on the one hand, I felt that sex before marriage was evil on some level. It was sin, and Mormons talk about it being one of the worst sins, and it's right. There's murder, and then just a little bit after murder, just a little below murder is sex before marriage, and that message comes through a lot stronger to women, I think, than to men. But I certainly got it.
Yeah, it comes on strong to young men too. It's really intense.
And and masturbation's not okay, and I was guilty of that all the time. And then I started touching boobies when I was.
He's guilty of that right now, which is a really uncomfortable in the studio. But we're just going to power through this, Dr. D. I promise.
I'm not guilty at all anymore. This is just me having a good time now. All
right, I'm going to look this way.
We'll
continue the conversation. So,
as long as it's consensual.
It's not exactly, but we do have an LLC together. I think we've already signed paperwork.
You just cool it, sweetheart. It's fine. That was me calling Mark sweetheart.
Sweetheart.
Anywho, no. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, yes, even after I left the religion, I didn't leave the shame. I didn't leave the feeling that somehow I was doing something wrong. And so I wanted to talk to you about that and ways of combating that sense that yes, I no longer logically believe that this is inherently wrong or bad, but those feelings still stick around.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on that front?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, and it takes a lot of work. It's not something that you're going to get over, overnight. And I think, one of the first steps to achieving a healthy framework towards sexuality is to kind of turn inwards to yourself. And it involves kind of becoming acquainted or reacquainted with what feels good for you, and getting to know your own body and trying to sort of break through that cycle of shame. Masturbation, I think, is one of the most fundamental parts of healthy sex, because that's just you and your own body, and taking the time to kind of learn what feels good to you is incredibly rewarding, and it can really kind of retrain you to focus on yourself. And I think it makes you a better partner, and it helps you approach sex in a much more confident framework. So, buying a vibrator, spending time, getting a mirror. If you have a vagina, look at your vagina. What does it look like? Touch it. What parts feel good? If you have a penis and testicles and an anus, I mean, all of those parts are pleasurable parts of our body, and we shouldn't be ashamed to look at them, to touch them, to talk about them. And
give them the occasional wash.
Yes.
Well, let's just say we wash them all quite a bit.
Well, it just depends on, it's like how often, it's like your car. How often you take it out of the garage is how often you need to wash it. Right, doctor? That's good medical advice.
I feel like we've gone down a weird road here.
We can do a whole other segment on that aspect of it.
But I like what you're saying, that the idea of just kind of in a low pressure situation, if you haven't had a lot of experience, or you have had a lot of experience but you haven't enjoyed it, when you're by yourself, just take yourself on a little date in the bathroom or in the bedroom and see what's up, right?
Right.
Well, and that's sorry, go ahead.
No, you can finish your thought.
I was just going to say that you can't offend anybody by there's now, once you stop believing in a magic daddy who's looking at everything that you're doing and judging you.
Yeah.
You can't hurt anybody by touching you. You can't make any mistakes. You can't do anything embarrassing. All you can do is just try stuff, and if it's joyful and pleasurable, keep trying it, and if it doesn't do anything for you, you get to stop.
Right. There's no right or wrong way to do it. As long as it feels good, then you're doing the right thing.
I mean, there might be some wrong ways. I've seen the pictures of
I've seen X-rays,
ER visits where something gets stuck up in a place that they shouldn't be, and stuff like that.
Yes, definitely. I would only recommend buying sex toys that are purposely intended to be used as sex toys.
That can be retrieved in the comfort of your own home.
No light bulbs.
Yeah.
No light bulbs. No glass, no vegetables. Just stay away from food in general. But there's a lot of really great sex toys out there, and there's a lot of really great sex positive retailers that you can go and seek out. And this is the great thing about being in the age of the internet. You can do all this browsing in the privacy of your own home. You can read reviews. You can learn about how to use them. And I think that's a really amazing tool that we have to kind of help explore our own sexuality. I mean, in the age of the internet, there's, pornography, there's erotic fiction, and you can find these that are done in a sex positive manner that, involve consenting adults.
Right.
Without having to go into sort of the deep, dark corners of the internet. And these can all be really great tools to use to explore your own sexuality.
And I wanted to also mention, I mean, you're right that the internet can be amazing for this stuff, but I wanted to mention that though it takes a level of bravery that you have to just sort of come to when you're new to sexuality and stuff, and even for people who have been doing sex for a while, walking into a sex shop can be scary and can be intimidating and can be embarrassing. But I've gotten some great advice about products. Like, if they're not, hopefully the people that are working there are knowledgeable and understand their own products and understand how to care for them and understand why one thing is bent a certain way and another thing is bent a different way, and why this thing has two little rabbit ears on it and all those sorts of things. And I've found that just having those interactions can also be helpful in normalizing all of this.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think if you can find a great sex positive toy store in your community, then I would agree that you should go there and you should talk to someone there about what you're looking for. And it is, part of erasing the stigma of sex and the shame around sex is having conversations about it. It's talking to somebody else and saying, when you're young and you're masturbating, or when you're older and you're masturbating and you're new to it, it feels like, is anybody else actually doing this? I remember the first conversation I had with a friend about masturbation in high school, and I was like, oh, thank God, I'm not the only one who's like hiding in their bedroom under the covers and, feeling this sense of shame about it. Because you think you're the only person out there. So having these conversations with other people, especially professionals who are trained to help you, is really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna expose a little bit about myself here, not physically, but verbally. That I had left religion in my heart when I was a very young man, but there were still so many sexual stigmas in my very, very conservative end of the Mormon corner of the world, that I didn't masturbate until I was probably 23.
Oh my God, is that possible?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Well, apparently. And that's insane because that probably wasn't healthy.
Right. I think it, from a physical standpoint, clearly you can stand that, right? You can
just barely
not masturbate.
I couldn't.
Barely.
When I was a kid, I tried because, Mormonism is all like, don't do it. And I tried to stop I stopped for, I think, a month, and then was just like, I can't not do it. I have to do it.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of like breaking the seal. Once you started, then
Right.
there really is no stopping. But if you've never started, then, but I think, mentally, I can't imagine how that must have felt for you to not.
Well, it was complicated by my closet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And giving in, for me, giving into kind of, first of all, figuring out how the fuck it was supposed to happen, and then giving into that carnality, I think, would have been an admission to myself that I was gay before I was ready to kind of go there.
Right.
But yeah, when I tell, other men that, they just can't believe that was even physically doable.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you bring up a good point too about, people outside of the heteronormative spectrum of, heterosexual sex, for LGBT community, there's even more stigma and shame attached to it. And especially when you're younger and you're trying to figure yourself out, there are different needs there, and it's even harder to have those conversations and to learn about, about your needs.
I wouldn't have known where to begin to find information or who to have a conversation with, because
Right.
again, I would have revealed too much about myself. So I just laid there at night feeling like my body was going to blow in half at the waist.
And I'm going to just say here that this is where I think the medical community has a big responsibility to step in and to normalize sex. We should all, as physicians, as nurses, nurse practitioners, whatever your role is as a caregiver, we should be having these conversations with our patients. If not at every visit, at every annual visit, once a year, are you having sex? Are you thinking about having sex? Who are you having sex with? How's it going?
Right.
Is it, is it good? Is it bad? What can we do to help you? Our medical education traditionally hasn't been very good about giving doctors the skills to have those conversations with their patients. And there's more of a focus on it these days, but it's still a hard thing. Physicians feel uncomfortable having these conversations with their patients, or they wait for them to bring it up themselves.
Right.
So if my patient has a problem with sex, they'll ask me about it. But that's not how it goes. People don't think of their doctors in that way.
Right.
And-
Well, maybe you can help us with that, because I can tell you that the first few times I spoke to a doctor about sexuality, it was a hard conversation for me. I was a little bit awkward about it and whatever. Now, I think I horrify my doctors because I just blurt whatever the fuck's on my mind because to me it's all very normal and natural and great. But maybe you can guide some of our listeners through how to approach that conversation with their doctor. What is and isn't an appropriate conversation with the doctor, and how can a person's daily or personal physician help them with their sexual journey?
Yeah. So, in terms of what's okay and not okay to talk about with your doctor, I mean, everything should be on the table when it comes to sex, because really every aspect of sex has an impact on your health. And so you should be able to have an open conversation with your doctor about anything that's a concern to you. I think in terms of how to approach the conversation, if your doctor's not doing it themselves, either on a health history form or through some sort of intake process, then you do unfortunately then have to take that responsibility on yourself to bring it up. And I say unfortunately because, again, the physicians should really be better at initiating these conversations. But just saying to your doctor, hey, I want to talk about sex.
Right. So let me ask you this: if you were my physician, if you were a physician and I walk into the room, would you be completely delighted if I spoke about, hey, I want to explore some anal sexual blah blah blah, as if I was as comfortable saying that as I was, hey, I think I've banged my knee, I'm not sure what's wrong?
I would be. I think that's great. Yes, let's have a conversation about that and how to do that in a safe and healthy way. I think that is that when a patient comes forward with that kind of request, then I feel honored as a physician that they feel comfortable having that conversation with me. Now, not every physician is going to be comfortable with that level of conversation. So sometimes you kind of need to ease them into it a little bit.
Kind of like anal.
Kind of like anal.
Not unlike the topic you're trying to bring up.
All right, doctor, I just want you to breathe. I want you just to relax and breathe.
Use some verbal lubrication when you get there.
I guess that's kind of the point, isn't it? That this is just another system of the body, and that we should speak about it with as much shame as we speak about any other system of the body.
Which is none.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly it. Yes.
And if your physician can't handle it, because let's face it, there are religious physicians.
Lots of them.
Time to get a new one.
Maybe it's time to get a new one. And if you live in a city large enough to support that, then maybe that's what you need to do. Right?
And, talk to your friends. If you don't like your doctor, if you don't feel like your doctor is giving you what you need, don't suffer through it. Find a new physician. And I think also, letting your physician know that that's an issue.
Yeah, and I think there's another thing here that you probably are super aware of, which is for middle class and maybe working class Americans, the doctor is seen as this great authority figure in life, from with whom there is no kind of sense of appeal or adjustment, that you just have. They're like a judge, right? That you just basically have to do what they say, and it's very hard for people to go, oh, I don't like what you're doing, right? I don't like this relationship, so I'm going to change this relationship.
Yeah, and doctors. I mean, we have to remember that doctors are human too, right? So we have our own failings. We're not perfect, and we are not, the last word on everything. So
we've all seen Scrubs. We know what's up.
So if your doctor is telling you something that doesn't feel right or isn't sitting right with you, tell them that. Ask them more questions. And if at the end of the visit or the day you're not satisfied with where they're going, or you don't feel like they're meeting your needs, then it really is time for you to find a new doctor. And I think there's actually parallels there in having conversations with your doctor to having conversations with your sexual partners as well. Because I think that's another area that is really tricky as you're sort of navigating this transition into having a healthier approach to sex. It's not initially, we're focusing inwards, we're focusing on ourselves and our own pleasure, but eventually most of us are going to bring somebody else into the equation.
Right.
And so then how do you have conversations with them about sex?
And that's an important point. You know what? I think the theme that has arisen from this conversation does seem to be about conversation or about communication. And it's communication with the self and, reminding the self, you know what? This isn't shameful. This isn't bad. This is all okay. And my body is mine, and I can do anything I want to it, and I can stick my finger in anything I want, and it's mine. And then there's the conversation with the doctor, so yes, let's transition into this conversation with a partner, because again, we're getting into this. Everything about this is scary. Everything about this is intimidating, and I don't think people feel awkward about talking to a partner.
Yeah, this is a constant. I think for all of these how-to segments we've done, the one word that we keep coming back to is intimidation. Dan, you touched on a nice moment of that, I think, with like going into the sex shop. That I remember my first time walking in, it was the Pleasure Chest on Santa Monica, which is like, come on, you have no reason to be ashamed. You're not the kinkiest thing that's even walked through in the past 2 seconds. But it's all, there's such a level of intimidation, drinking, whatever. So yeah, how do we go from now that we've had the conversations with ourselves and with our doctors, moving on to maybe your first sex partner, or maybe your first sex partner after a marriage if you've left a religious institution,
or just your first sex partner that you want to initiate a different kind of sexual relationship with, a more healthy, a more sex positive relationship with.
Right.
Yeah. It's, when you have a strong foundation that you're entering into this relationship with, or this conversation, then I think that really helps you be a better advocate for yourself and your own needs, which I think makes you a better partner. So, being ready, I think some of it is sort of, it sounds a little hokey, but to sort of practice ahead of time. So being prepared for the situation that you're going to be in with a partner. So
what really works for me with public speaking? Just pretend they're naked.
And in this case, they actually are. So it's perfect.
See? Hooray.
So it's, condoms, right? So that's probably one of the big tricky points when you're having sex especially with a new partner, is people feel awkward about asking their partner to wear a condom. So one thing I say is, if you have a penis or if you have a vagina, either way, you should have, and you're having sex, you should always have condoms on you. It is never the other person's responsibility to have the condoms. You should always be proactive about having it. And that way you're less likely to end up in a situation where you don't have a condom. And in that situation, you're more likely to kind of end up in the heat of the moment, sort of going forward with maybe less sex than you should be doing. So having a condom available is great. That eliminates one of the things. And then being comfortable putting condoms on is a good skill to have. So
practice, right? Seriously, practice on the banana.
Well, and put it for guys, put it on yourself. For ladies, practice putting it on somebody else. And it doesn't have to. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I'm actually going to get super rudimentary here and just say, hey, Dr. D, what do condoms do?
Great. Yes. So condoms are barrier protection. So condoms cover the shaft of the penis, and so they prevent semen from getting into the vagina or into the anus, and they protect the skin of the shaft of the penis and the vagina or the anus from exposure to sexually transmitted infections.
Great. And also, so they also prevent pregnancy. That was inherent in the whole preventing the semen from getting out.
And what would you say the effective rate of condom use is? Because this is a statistic that is abused frequently by our anti-sex friends.
So perfect use for condoms. So you use a condom every single time. You put it on before there's any penis and vagina contact. And you leave it on until ejaculation is complete, but then you remove the penis from the vagina before it loses its erection. That is about 97% effective at preventing pregnancy.
All right.
So pretty good.
That's perfect use.
Right.
Typical use is about 85%. So because we're human and,
a little sloppy.
Yep, exactly. So things happen. But typical use is 85% at preventing pregnancy, which is still better than none because without a condom, your chance of getting pregnant is 85%. So, yeah.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah. So you just kind of flip the numbers there. So with sexually transmitted infections, gonorrhea, chlamydia, and syphilis, the effectiveness is all in the high 90s.
Okay.
When you talk about other things like herpes, it becomes less effective because you can have herpes sores on the labia, around the exterior of the anus, or on the testicles. And those are all areas that wouldn't be covered by the male condom.
And that's where full body condoms come in. Is that right?
Yes, full body condoms. There's also the female condom, provides a little bit more exterior coverage.
And is it effective in all those stats as the male condom?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are options there. So, condoms are really good at what they do. And they're a really important part of healthy sex. And so, I think the biggest, when you're having that conversation with your partner and, you're going to have sex with them, having that condom readily available and say, just pulling it out and saying, okay, let's put this on, and being ready to do so, I think makes it a lot harder for the other person to say no.
Right. And you can, just to be clear, sorry, I want to get rudimentary on this, just because there are going to be people listening who have almost no experience. Mm-hmm. So we're just gonna ground up this thing.
Maybe some of them are also in this conversation, but I'm not naming names.
Right? Yes, indeed. Using your hands on your partner's genitals, pretty safe. How safe are we with that?
Safe.
Okay, so we can start with hand stuff, and then when we want to get penetrative, that's when we initiate condom use. Is that right?
Exactly. Yep.
And just to help empower, again, some of our less experienced listeners, if you're in a situation where you produce a condom and the partner says, no, I don't want to, or I can't feel or whatever, what would your advice be? Abort? Get out?
Abort.
Yeah.
Stop.
Bail.
They are not worth it. You go home, you get your vibrator, and you're good to go.
Neat.
That somebody who won't use a condom when you have asked them to is not respecting you as a person, and so they are not respecting your health.
Right.
And that is not somebody who deserves to be intimate with you.
And I think it's also very important to mention that nobody ever owes anybody any amount of sex.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And I think another time we need to have a really deep dive conversation into consent, its maintenance, and its care and feeding.
Yeah.
But touching on that here, yes, even in the heat of the moment, if there is a partner who is like, no, it doesn't feel right to me, walk away.
Even if even if you promised your partner sex, if you said, tonight we're going to have sex, you actually don't owe that person sex. There's never a moment when you owe another person sex. You can always say, I'm cutting it off. I'm going home. We're done.
Right. Any person has the right to call it quits at any point.
See,
And,
Dan, I told
absolutely.
you.
Okay, fine. Well, I think we're gonna leave it there. I hope, Dr. D, that you will be willing to come back and have many such conversations with us, because we have only scratched the surface of this conversation.
This is a strong start, but it is such a massive subject. I think we're barely through the first page. So thanks for joining us. This has been amazing.
I've had a blast. I look forward to coming back.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks, Dr.
Moving
D.
on.
Bye.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email if you'd like to, howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you want us to hear your beautiful voice, you can leave us a voicemail at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986.
Yeah, hey, if you want to be a patron of this of this fine show and help us make it, you can do so by going to the howtoheretic.com, just howtoheretic.com, and click on that patron button.
And we should thank our amazing producer and editor, Cody Layton.
Yeah, and thank you, dear friends, for tuning into the show.
Bye-bye, friends.